I'm William Andreessen, host of Speaking with Students, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows in the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
It's a time you've all been waiting for. The Hitech Podcast is here. If you clicked on this podcast thinking it was a different podcast, like, I don't know.
Maybe you thought it was My EdTech Life with Fonz.
Yeah, it's true.
Go ahead.
That would be a weird mix-up, a confusing thing. Maybe you thought it was a podcast about Ted Lasso. I can understand that because we did that for a while. But it is the Hitech Podcast where we are here to talk about education, technology, Will and I's thoughts. If you're just listening now and you're like, who's Will? That's my co-host or other host or person, whatever we've been calling each other at this point. Will, how you doing, man?
I think host. This is the second week in a row where I am just hyped up on ibuprofen and making things work. Yeah. So I got to get over this cold. This, folks. All right, yeah, we'll just go right to it. It's about a week and a half after Thanksgiving right now in 2023.
Oh man, you broke the magic.
This
I was
episode...
gonna pretend.
All right.
All right.
Well,
I was gonna pretend. Hold on. Let's rewind back. Okay, we'll run back here for a second. Okay. No. See, Will is out of it because it's post New Year's Eve, and we had a crazy New Year's Eve. That's why. Woo! It was nuts. That's why it's like this. Like, man, Christmas was just forever ago. Am I right? But oops. Nailed it.
Wait. What was that, Josh?
I said Christmas was forever ago. Am I right?
Oh, well,
that was
I'll
close.
Get better at this.
That was there. At least I heard it this time.
Yes, that's true.
We're
having
man.
Fun.
Yeah, it is another week. We are into season 6, the second episode of season 6. I'm going to break the fourth wall again. I'd love to tell you that, like, man, it was so great doing episode 1, and now we're into episode 2. Will and I haven't recorded episode 1. We have no idea how we started season 6 with you all. I hope it was great. I think it was fantastic. I think we nailed it. We did it so well. It was our best podcast episode ever. I am wishing that into existence right now. There we go. That's how it looks. But we are on episode 2. Which comes after 1, but was recorded before 1. Clearly makes sense. I'm super excited for this week because we have 2 guests. Not 1, but 2, right? You thought you were listening to a podcast with just 2 people, but it's actually going to be 4. 4 people.
Wait.
That's a deal.
Oh.
Yeah, like
I was confused for a second. I was like, 4? We didn't get 4 guests, and then I realized there's
4
us,
total people. We are 2.
You and me.
We are 2. We exist. Yeah. I believe we exist. Therefore, we exist. Okay. We
Cogito ergo sum.
Yeah. See, I added a little bit in there. I'm glad you picked that up. Okay, so we are super excited for this. We are joined by Elsa Friis and Scott Freschet. Who is from the app alongside. Yep, we are super excited about this. Will and I like we do this all the time. We get interviews. We're gonna talk to people, and we're like, it'll probably be fun, and then it ends up being super fun, and that's what this conversation was. It is. Yes. It's super cool what Alongside is doing. It is a really cool app that I'm not gonna tell you much about because we're gonna be talking about it in the episode. Spoiler alert. Why would I do that? That would be ridiculous. Anyway, so it's super awesome. We're gonna be talking to them. I'm just saying there's a llama in your future. That's all I'm saying. Okay, it's gonna be great. So, let's not burden the beginning of this episode with any more statements from Will and I. There's already been enough. With that said, let's go join Elsa and Scott to talk about the app Alongside.
We appreciate you all taking the time with us and for joining the mayhem that is the Hitech Podcast. Let's roll into it. We'll go with Scott first. What is Alongside? How did you come up with the idea? What's the background of this, in my opinion, wonderful tool?
Yeah. Well, thank you. At its core, alongside is an application. It's an app that students can access on their Chromebooks, or students can access on their Android devices or iPhones, and it helps provide access to mental health support. And so our end users are students, or middle school and high school students, predominantly in the United States, and we work exclusively with schools. And so schools come to alongside or our team because they're looking to overcome staffing limitations and really cover all their students with evidence-based mental health support.
That's a beautiful thing to do. And we all know that that's a pretty steep hill to climb, unfortunately. There's resourcing issues, effectiveness, just even getting the kids to commit and participate can be tough. I have a friend who was a school counselor for quite some time. I mean, it's a very important thing, and yet not always easy. So alongside then is going to make this easier. Yeah, I mean, it's trying to get this in the hands of the students, maybe even bring them into the process. How does that work on the day-to-day? If something's happening and someone's using alongside, is it the teacher or is it the student?
Yeah, I think so. Logistically, students access alongside on their Chromebooks, on their phones. And so maybe we'll use as an example. So I'll just put on my 8th grader hat right now, and I'm at school, and I'm at a public school in America. And the realities in the school that I'm in, and this is published data, is that schools in America are 100,000 school counselors short of where they need to be to provide proper coverage. And so in that reality, I'm a student who's going through big emotions, stressed out about something, dealing with anxiety, or maybe slightly depressed. The latest data showed that about 45% of adolescents in this country are persistently sad and depressed. And so, I am either, if my school district has alongside, going to my Chromebook, going to my phone to access and get access to mental health support. And, my colleague, Dr. Friis, can go into more detail what this is. Or my counselor or my teacher is seeing me acting out or needing help or struggling to self-regulate and is directing me to a quiet, calming corner in the classroom, or directing me to the counseling office where then I can jump on alongside and get some real-time help. And so really it's about a world where, sometimes students don't always want to open up to the grown-up. Sometimes your counselor, your teacher doesn't have time for you, which is often the case. And so then alongside is an app-based solution so students can have real 24/7 support, not just in school, but anytime after school as well too.
Okay.
So to Dr. Friis then, you might both know this, but I'll share the mic, if you will. When that student opens up the app, are they getting in touch directly with you, or are there things that they might get immediately that are like prompts, reflections, options, other things for them to consider? What's that look like?
Yeah, great question. So they do not get to talk directly with me or anyone on our team. Some kids would be disappointed. Some kids might actually enjoy that. So how we have tried to actually make this a really low cost and scalable solution is we have worked very hard with our engineering team to develop a AI-powered chatbot that is 97% therapist written scripts, tips, tools, and 3% kind of AI magic that's helping kids get through and get to the right resources within the app. And so I like to think of AI as the facilitator, it's the guide, it's kind of making it all work together. But the core content and the advice we're giving is developed by doctoral level clinicians.
That's super cool. The idea of bringing in a resource like that to be kind of trained, but then also bring people to eventually better resources, right? Of the things that could help them, not necessarily an AI robot helping counsel the student, but like taking them in the right direction seems to be kind of the resource that you're looking at. I'm curious what because it sounded like as we were kind of prepping for this episode, Elsa and Scott, that there was kind of a combined relationship that guys got you somewhere to where you're at alongside. I'm curious also, like, what got you in this direction of going down the AI route and taking that resource? Because I could see some people going, I don't want to go that direction. Like I could see some people not going that direction. So I'm curious, what pushed you that way? What was kind of the interest and why, how you kind of got there?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Great question, Josh. And kind of what's the origin story and why did we head in this trajectory with the current manifestation of Alongside? It was about 2 years ago. Me and my colleagues were looking into ways to help address the youth mental health crisis. So it was around the time where the U.S. Surgeon General, this was like in 2021, released a report that said, hey, this is a crisis. It's not going away. COVID has put a spotlight. One. It was about the time that the U.S. Department of Education issued a 100-page white paper saying, like, our students are struggling, and here's 100 pages of what we should be doing better to support them, and everybody was scrambling. And so me and my colleagues were saying, we previously created an organization that was delivering, was supporting schools with learning outcomes. And so we know that with limited resources in schools, that schools are often looking to they're trying to hire technology to solve some problem that they can't otherwise do. And so with providing more access to mental health support, we were like, should we maybe do some mentoring and facilitate better mentoring in schools? Should we maybe work on helping to change school culture and doing professional development around that? Maybe we can use this new thing called like chatbots. This is like early days. This was before ChatGPT really exploded, but we were looking into it. And what we did is we ultimately went to 85 teens across the country and started asking them questions to say, like, okay, what kind of mental health challenges are you facing? Do you go to someone in your school, like a teacher and a counselor, to get help? If not, why not? And so really after working with teens, these like 13 to 17-year-old students in the country, we said, really what they're looking for is something that's 24/7. It's a non-judgmental, so it's a safe space. And it needs to be in my native language too, because a lot of students, especially their feeling language, is not English. And so that's when we went back to some early versions of ChatGPT and we're like, what is this thing? This thing's crazy. It would never work. And we're like, no, it's actually like kind of working pretty well. And so that's when we had the idea of like, could we mirror a little bit of AI with, clinician grade, content, enter the amazing Dr. Friis, my colleague, and then package that up. So like safe AI is what some of our partners are calling it, to deliver clinical grade intervention to students.
Okay. That's super cool. I like the concept of safe AI.
That's the only kind of AI that I like, frankly.
Safe AI? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It gives me a picture of, what was that big inflatable robot from that one Disney movie?
Big Hero 6?
Yeah, Big Hero 6. I don't remember. I'm starting to lead into a conversation not really remembering what this thing is called. We're going to call it Safe AI or Fluffy Robot. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. I feel that's the picture I'm getting. So I'm curious then, Elsa, from your side, how do you fit for our listeners who don't know much about this, right? And the reason I think Will and I are asking is, right, because we know the initial reaction anywhere to AI in education is usually a polar opposite. It's either I love it or Arnold Schwarzenegger is coming to kill me. Like that's basically kind of the reactions I get from people. So I'm curious from your end, how do you kind of fit into this, and what does it look like working with this AI to try to get kind of this clinical part of it in? I'm curious, like, how does that all work of what you guys are doing there to make that happen?
Absolutely. I'll just start this off by saying we are in no way trying to replace counselors, mental health therapists, We see the school mental health support team. Those are our most critical partner, and we want to work alongside them. We want to help reduce clinician burnout, and we want to strengthen what all the amazing work that they are already doing. And so for me, just personally, technology scares me. I actually hate it. I break every phone, every computer within like 2 months of having it. This has lasted like 2 weeks. It's great.
Gold star.
Nice work. Solid work.
But I say that as the baseline, as what we're really rallying around is technology as a vehicle and a way to increase access in the context that we are in like a mental health emergency right now. 22% of high school students are reporting seriously considering attempting suicide. Over half of high school students are having symptoms of depression and anxiety. So really my role and goal is to, again, the tech hater in me, is to say, how do we make this really just facilitate delivering the evidence-based strategies that we've developed with decades of research and put that in the hands of teens in a way that it's understandable, it's fun, it's engaging, and doesn't feel like a lecture. So one tangible way just to think about this and why I came around to AI is, thinking about putting a worksheet in like an online learning platform website. And then you're trying to give instructions and how to work through it for kids to self-help. That's not really fun and engaging, but we can train chatbots that both have set scripts that we make and a little bit of generative AI that actually walks through, it troubleshoots, it answers those questions. And we make it safe by we say this is the scope. You're teaching this one skill, this one worksheet. I am telling you the skill and worksheet, and your job is just to make that digestible, feel like a conversation, and feel approachable to kiddos.
So, I mean, in something as simple as some breathing exercises, right? If a student's feeling anxiety, they might be able to describe that well enough that the bot understands it and replies back, well, have you tried a breathing exercise? That could be a very easy, low-level thing that could actually make a difference in a kid's life. Yes. Right there in the moment where there's no professional around, and otherwise they might spiral downward negatively. An immediate intervention. I love that. I went for something I've personally experienced. I would expect to be in there, but I'm assuming it has everything from small breathing exercises to triage and trying to figure out if it's depression, anxiety, larger issues.
Exactly. We can help with, I forgot how many issues we can help with now, Scott. You probably have to give me the exact number, but a myriad of issues. And we have over 126 of these kind of coaching modules or skills. So as you said, that's anything from calm down in the moment, how to make a study plan, which can reduce anxiety for an upcoming test, how to resolve a conflict with a friend. When you get in trouble, this is my favorite one. When you get in trouble, how to just not make things worse for yourself. That's one of my favorite modules.
Wait a second. That. Do you all have a family subscription model? Can I use this to get?
I was gonna say, does this apply to adults? Does it have to just be kids?
It is actually really funny. A lot of our teachers use it. I think for work conflicts, their real life as well. In addition.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a little bit of how to just not make situations worse. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually really hard to do. That's a skill you need to learn.
One of the, I think also just to really anchor for all the listeners is, alongside is this, it's a chatbot app. And so really what schools see is we're helping to deliver the 5-minute conversation that kids need. So again, I'm going to put my 8th grader hat back on. I work with an 8th grader here in Providence, Rhode Island, and I get to go and see him once a week because I'm his mentor. But when I'm not there, his teacher is trying to pull, 150 kids a day. There's 2 counselors trying to cover like 700 kids. So like he just doesn't have anybody to talk to. And so when something comes up and you just need that 5-minute conversation, the mascot in our app is a llama. So kids just go talk to the llama for 5 minutes and they say, I'm stressed out, or I'm really worried about this test, or, I broke up with my girlfriend or something, whatever it is. And so to Elsie's point, we're matching just a little bit of AI to help you feel seen and feel heard, but ultimately connecting you to that 5-minute clinical exercise to like calm down your breathing, take a different perspective, do something, and then get on to math class and then get to the next thing, or not be, a behavioral issue in the classroom. And so, the 2 ways is me, that being the 8th grader, is I just pull up alongside and start using it, or my teacher or counselor sees me probably misbehaving or acting out and directs me to alongside or the calming corner to kind of access it.
That's super cool. I love that your mascot's a llama, by the way. That might be the thing that just won me over. Not that I was like against it. The llama just made me further over the line.
I saw it on the website and I was like, oh, that's a cute image. But now to know that image is your mascot is the item.
Yeah. Like if I want some, 5-minute conversation, I want it to be a llama talking to me. So I feel like that's a good move. I'm curious here. Will and I've been asking a bunch of questions here. One of the things I think I'm curious about, I think other people would be in the midst of this, right? The 5-minute conversations or these helpful situations. What does it look like in your app? I'm sure this has had to come up where something does end up having to get like escalated. Like something is a serious issue, right? That's beyond even the AI's capability to navigate them around. What does that look like, right? Where somebody has to get escalated up to a different situation.
Absolutely. So this is where we really take that partnership with schools and districts. This is really central to our approach because we want to be that step or that route into getting more in-person support. So if anything comes up around suicidal ideation, self-harm, abuse, harassment, anything like that, we're monitoring for that. And what happens is we work with the district to configure alerts via text messages or emails to really integrate into their own safety protocols. Every school, every district kind of has their own way of handling this. So we work with them to integrate seamlessly into their protocols so that someone knows. And while we are doing that, we're concurrently trying to provide the best support we can to students through walking them through what's called a safety plan. And so this is one of our key tools that we use for students who are exhibiting suicidal ideation or self-harm or even homicidal ideation, to basically have them identify what are those small things I can do in this exact moment that's going to give me a little bit of hope, help me calm down and regulate if I have a lot of high emotion going on, and who can I reach out to in addition to the school counselor supporting that student.
Okay, that's very cool. I like that you're connecting into the already existing things. I think that's very cool that you're acknowledging that and finding ways to kind of, like you said, come alongside. The name fits perfectly with kind of what you're trying to do and come into that. It's really cool.
One of the things that Josh, thank you for asking this question because it's the first question that comes up with all our schools.
Yeah.
So Elsa previously mentioned the latest CDC data. 22% of high school students in America seriously consider attempting suicide. So if you're at a high school in America, that means 1 out of every 5 kids in high school is seriously thinking about attempting suicide. And when we speak with school districts, they're like, oh my gosh, every single one of our kids is going to be talking into the app that they're needing of help. And there's no way we can handle all these notifications. And, yes, we're short-staffed, but like, there's no way we'll ever be able to handle this. In reality, what we see, because we are creating the safe space, is that if you do open up to the llama about thoughts of hurting yourself or something like that, really, it's just like you're asking for help. And so what we find and what we see is that it's less than 1% of users who do have a severe issue that triggers. And then that goes directly to the school support team. And what the school support team finds is that, schools in America, they have assessments and they have kind of monitoring tools. Think of this as like the once a year test you take in gym class or twice a year test you take in health class. Schools know that no one really answers those, honestly. So they're missing a bunch of kids. And so what Alongside is doing is it's catching those silent kids who they never would have found, and it's giving them a channel and vehicle to kind of on-ramp to that in-person services. So everybody's biggest concern is like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get so many notifications. Turns out that's not true. But what actually happens is for that small population, kind of the students that are the silent sufferers, we're actually helping to on-ramp them to the proper care.
Love
That's
that.
really cool. Yeah. Yeah, I love that as part of my background was working with some younger kids in high school, middle school before I came into instructional design. And it's a tough situation where there's students who don't want to talk about those issues. Like they and providing an avenue to feel comfortable for that, just in that that connection and helping, as you mentioned, right, that I think counselors who are overwhelmed and struggling to deal with those things to find the time to be able to slow down and be able to help each student with the mass load that they have is very difficult. And so any kind of support like this, I think, is a really cool idea. I think the thing that was coming to my mind as you were describing it is that what you're really doing is to your point, Elsa, you're not trying to replace counselors or find that spot. You're going into the holes that exist that are not going to be filled and can't be filled because nobody has the space to do it, right? And so you're coming into that area to kind of help that. I think that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the internet, YouTube even, has provided a lot of access to bad, but also some good information about how to address your own mental health. But that assumes agency, that the student's going to go out and find this. As a tool integrated into a district, it's available to them. They just have to click. They get told about it. They know the llama. There might be llama swag around the district, right? These things are then in front of them and a part of the language. I love that, in a way, what I would expect this is that it becomes a part of the culture, that it's something that's related or relevant. If I think about conversations with family and some other people in my life who aren't as comfortable with their mental health or with it as a subject, it takes a lot of priming and it takes some actual work to get into a conversation with them about their mental health. So to know that this tool is becoming a part of the process, I don't want to belittle it that way, right? But like that it's available and it's in the fabric of education. I would hope to see, I was joking about the family subscription, but it would be great that they could kind of go on from school and eventually can keep using services like these long term, right? Because we all need to be healthy. We all need those opportunities. I love that it's available to our kids who are in some ways some of the most vulnerable, because otherwise they don't have the tools, they don't have the access, they don't have someone advocating for it either.
It's so true.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to go off of that. Is, one thing I love to talk with about teachers or educators is, every student is coming into school every day with an invisible backpack that might be weighed down with all the things that happened that morning, what happened historically, stress that they're facing. And so, what we're really trying to do is, one, like, help understand and make that backpack visible. But as you said, for those students who are like, nope, this is mine, it doesn't feel good to talk about, we're like, great, okay, your backpack is heavy, it's bursting, it's overwhelming. What are those small 5-minute tools to organize it, to clean it up, to help it feel lighter, and even to start building and equipping other tools in your backpack that then you can take out later if something does happen in the future.
Yeah. That's really good. I love that.
It's
we
it's one
basically
of
just did the
those
same thing.
easy
It's
ones
cool.
to be saying it, but like
Yeah.
I'm happy you all are on the podcast because these are the things that I wouldn't have known this was out there. I've only ever heard of one other platform like this, and I've never seen anything about it. But Josh and I are people who not only can do this podcast and get this out there so more instructors know about it, districts know about it, but I know instructional technologists and directors of technology in districts. Like this is the thing I'll be sharing around. I know that. So it's not just platonic, like, oh, I love that. I'm not trying to be nice. Like we're very excited to hear about these resources and how effective this is.
Super cool.
I'm thinking it could be worth an attempt. We'll break a fourth wall here for a moment. The podcast is now on a new platform. We have the opportunity, the option to do screen sharing. If Scott is ready, I think I see he is. We'll try out some screen share here. If we can even see alongside in action. Let's see this llama on screen. Now, for as he's getting ready, feel free to take over whenever you've got it, Scott. I'm just filling time. For podcast listeners, this is more motivation to go watch us on YouTube. You'll get to see what's going on, but we'll try to be as descriptive as possible for those who are just
I'm going to describe everything he does.
Oh, please don't.
I think that's probably the best way to do this, right? I'm joking.
We can see it. That's awesome, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So this is what we're showing here is the typical way in which students get introduced to Alongside is in a 15 or 20-minute class activity. You know, you start the school year and you're in English class, or or you're in social studies class and your content area teacher says, hey, we got this new thing. Or maybe it's a push-in activity, so your counselor comes in the classroom. And, you know, after working with teens, they're just like, don't have the grown-ups try to tell us what it is. Just go to a website, just play some videos. They're like, just get the adults out of the way. They're gonna screw it. And so, you know, what's interesting is, you know, all they do is they play a quick video. There's teens, and this is Ava. She's actually one of our interns. So there's 5 teens that talk about mental health, why it's so important to take care of that invisible backpack that Elsa mentioned, and kind of like how they start to use Alongside. Ava, again, then just walks you through how to get started, either on your Chromebook or on your phone. And so you always have access to this. And so that's kind of the getting started. And what the real game changer is here for our partners is that instead of thinking like, oh, we need, 30, 45 lessons, so every week we got to teach something. It's like, no, this is a 15-minute exercise. We get kids signed up, and then they have it in their pocket for the rest of the year. So then, students just log in with their school-issued email address. I'll just log in briefly here to our demo account. And Josh and Will, you can see everything. We're in this environment that says, want to continue our chat.
I'm just staring at the llama, man. I could.
We love the
and
llama.
Kiwi is blinking back at you.
It has a name? It's named Kiwi? Ah.
The hardest decision in the founding of this company was naming the llama.
I can only
I
imagine.
kid you not.
So everything we're looking at here is the Chromebook version of Alongside. And that's mostly how Alongside gets used between the hours of 8 and 3 p.m. in middle schools and high schools in America. Because, kids have Chromebooks, they're in class, yada, yada, yada. It's after school hours that we see most of the usage on phones, on the app. And so you can see here in the left-hand bar, there's videos that students can access. These are curated videos to help with, breathing techniques, current events that are going on, meditation and mindfulness videos. And another nice thing about this is as you start chatting with Kiwi, it takes into consideration the topics you're talking about and also curating video content. It's going to be really helpful for you. There's a chat experience. We'll go in this. We'll come back to this in a second. And this is where students spend most of their time. There's also a journaling section as well too. This is really popular with some of our ELA and content area teachers because they're making like their warm-up activities or, their advisory period about like, hey, go into the journal and alongside, respond to one of the prompts here and just get writing. And so it's just a safe space to write and practice that idea of taking, the thoughts and the things in your head and just getting it down somewhere else. But the real meat of alongside is this experience, and we talked about the 5-minute conversation that students just don't have access to. Maybe Elsa, I don't know, any interesting prompts that we're seeing students share recently that we should share with Kiwi today?
Ooh. So sometime around this year, we're coming up on finals. One I saw today was, I feel like a failure.
Yeah.
That
and
resonates.
So and before I even just enter this, just for you guys to see, every single time you start a conversation, we're always reminding the student, like, this is a safe space. This is private for you just to talk to Kiwi and get some help, because a lot of students don't want to talk to the grown-ups. Don't feel like it's a safe space. That said, every student knows that, hey, there is, there are ways that we would share what you're talking about. If you talk about harming yourself, harming someone else, abuse, or someone who's risk of harm, who's at risk of harm. And so it's always there. But so what we'll see here is, I feel like a complete failure. And anchoring back on this point that we started the conversation, Josh and Will, is really about the merging of clinician grade content or a clinician grade intervention and AI. And so, one way to think about alongside is we're just delivering, evidence-based, basically 5-minute worksheet exercises that, like, if you do that, you will feel better. Your anxiousness, your stress will go away. But like, no one really wants to do those. They're kind of boring. They're unengaging. And so, we don't want to do it. So the way that we are hiring artificial intelligence is we're hiring it to give a little bit more of a personally validating response. So when you say you feel like a complete failure, Kiwi says, I get that. Sometimes it's really hard. We feel like we aren't living up to expectations or achieved what we had hoped. Just remember that you have value far beyond your accomplishments and mistakes. And so just like saying, yes, Kiwi hears me. Okay, I'm willing to finish this exercise and go through this evidence-based activity, that is developed by Elsa and our clinical team.
I'd like
pausing
to
there for a second.
Just a few, observe a few pieces of this though that I think be useful for listeners not on YouTube, but also if someone's looking at this and not observing some of very intentional decisions I suspect you're making here. One, the first message came up by its own self. So there's 3-4 lines of text, but it's one long sentence, 2 long sentences, but it's one text, and then it makes look like it's typing again, and then it sends the next message. I have some strategies and advice, but there's some intentionality that I'm expecting. Like, you want the student to spend time with the first message, which is what you're talking to, Scott. That personalization, that it's not just straight to the strategy thing. It's what in marriage we often, my wife and I, talk to about, is this time to listen or is this time to act? Are you trying to give me something to do or something that I want you to hear, right? You're putting those things in play with the user interface itself. It's not even the stuff you've written. How that text comes up first, and it waits a second, it shows typing, then the second message comes through, gives it the sense of a lack of urgency. Actually, it slows the pace down, and then the user, the student, has 2 options. There are 2 bubbles, and it looks like 2 more kind of text responses they can choose, just like they're using their phone. There's a couple of those pieces I'm observing. It feels like a phone conversation. It feels like texting, and it doesn't have the urgency that some sort of, even in just a regular conversation, a friend, you say something like this to a friend, they might kind of escalate as quickly as possible. They want to respond. This is slowing it down, and I really appreciate even just those little pieces besides the actual content itself.
I love that you noticed that. Also, I would say shout out to, we have just such an amazing engineering and product team who are thinking through these exact things. So the longer the text, the slower it takes to like show up and appear. So it kind of slows you down, gives you time to digest.
Yeah, so it looks like Scott picked a strategy. So this is cool. It's like popping up other options.
This is a great. So I want to go back to about 5 or 10 minutes ago. Elsa was explaining that the way that we, one of the things that's really powerful. So again, I'm putting on my counselor hat. I'm putting on my teacher hat, and I see kids struggling with tons of different issues. My middle school and high school kids are just, there's a myriad of issues. So what we are doing and alongside is based on whatever you're writing here and what you open up about, we're able to map to one of 38 different issues that you're likely having. Is this anxiety around tests and grades? Is this you're not sleeping too much? Is this you're having relationship issues? Is this mean you're having trouble at home? And so based on that, then the magic of alongside is that my colleague Elsa and our clinical team has over 100 different clinical exercises and activities that are mapped to these issue areas. And so then it's kind of a choose your own journey as that student to say, what would be most helpful? I am feeling like a burden and I want to be kinder to myself. Maybe that's what you want to work on today. Maybe it's, I want to plan a challenging goal that helps me gain self-confidence. And so there's these different activities. Elsa, you know exactly who wrote which of these activities in the scripts. Like, which one do you think would be fun to show to Josh and Will today?
Oh, we need to bring some Blanca into this conversation. Dr. Blanco Ray is one of our amazing script writers, and what she brings is a lot of techniques around self-compassion, self-acceptance, mindfulness. And so let's do that first one. I'm feeling like a burden. I want to be kinder to myself, which is a quick exercise pulled from the self-compassion literature.
And Josh and Will, going back to kind of how we started alongside, hey, when me and some of my colleagues were thinking about what we could do, really make a difference in schools in America to help address the mental health crisis. Every single school district in America needs a Dr. Blanca Jare in their school. Like, she is amazing. She's been, I think, 15 years a mental health counselor in New Mexico prior to getting her PhD. She's incredible. But the reality is that, like, again, as I mentioned, we're 100,000 school counselors short in America's schools. So there's just a shortage. And in that environment, like, how can we package up Blanca's magic? How can we package up Elsa's magic, our other colleague Guido and Clark, and take their expertise and techniques in cognitive behavioral therapy and other modalities and deliver them in this environment that's accessible, and non-judgmental. And if I want to talk in Cantonese or Creole or Spanish or French, I can also have this conversation in my native language too.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I like the idea. I think I want to highlight that for a second, Scott, of what you're talking about. The idea of using this to bring out skilled counselors in this area who, in a normal way, could not be involved in these conversations because of their limitations, where they're at, the dynamics that they're in. I love this because I think this is an example of like where Will and I talk about technology a lot, and the area is that often any reaction to especially newer technology, and I still put AI in that category because I feel like every other day it's like something else happened. The dynamic of it is, I think, for us to react in several different ways, but there are ways for tools to almost we can use it to bring our humanness out in different ways and expand it in ways. At the end of the day, a tool should be able to be feel helped in that way. So I love that that's the perspective you're taking, because that's really what you're trying to do. You're taking the humanness of very skilled counselors and trying to plug holes that exist that otherwise wouldn't be in that area. So that's really cool perspective, and I like that idea. I think highlighting that is really powerful.
And I always love a GIF for our listeners. There are GIFs on the screen. It's a turtle. So Diego is our persona here, and Diego has admitted to feeling a burden, wants to be kinder to himself. The prompt has encouraged Diego to feel better. You can get back on your feet, find a way to feel a little better. And right after that is a GIF of one turtle just pushing another turtle to get up off their back.
And you know, one of the things is, I'm glad you brought this up, William. Like, we're laughing here at GIFs. You know, Alongside is an app built for teens. Yeah. And you know, if you really want to add value and create something that teens are going to like, you have to involve them in the process. And so this past summer, we started our first teen internship program. And so we had 20 awesome. Adolescents from all across the country. They were getting on Zoom every single day, chatting on Slack, working directly with Elsa and the clinical team, looking at images and GIFs and things that were going to be most appropriate. And so they're kind of like, you know, Alongside is essentially packaging up clinician grade intervention content and support, but really kind of with that teen kind of, you know, cleanse or deep clean, right? You know, it's like teen approved. And so, you know, they were reviewing all the content and all the experiences here to make sure, like, hey, I'm a 13-year-old. Yeah, this is appropriate for me. Hey, I'm 17. Oh, I'm not too cool for school. I would still laugh at this, and it'd be really helpful.
Critical awesome. Lesson I learned. Not that many teens have seen Anchorman, and thus the I'm in a box of emotions GIF does not resonate. It really hurt my soul deeply, deeply.
You know, I think it's going to be harder and harder to accept. In fact, you might want to throw a prompt in here for some of the teachers. You know, that Anchorman's like 20 years old at this point. Like, who even knows? Might be older than these students.
Let's not talk about that. But in all reality, you know, I make a lighthearted.
Sorry, I was going to say the number one request we get, Will, from our school-based partners is, this is amazing. We're hearing kids in the hallway talking about Kiwi and their conversations with Kiwi. I heard this girl tell another girl, like, go talk to Kiwi. Like, this is fantastic. Now, where's the teacher app, or where's the staff app of the version of it?
Okay.
And, you know, and it's in that, you know, for everybody listening that, you know, is staff or is a teacher or is a school counselor, you know, I think the reason why our partners are asking for that is because you can access this whenever. And, you know, we've talked to a lot of them because, you know, we could provide a lot of professional development and support and training, but school leaders know that, like, that's just one more thing. That's asking that someone come in for more time or attend this thing. And sometimes it's just not the most accessible way as a staff member in schools to get some support or get some help or think about your craft. And so actually what we hear more is like, our staff is using this and I like it, but like, yes, is there a staff version which might just have a little bit more of a adult bent on the content, right? So we hear that a lot.
It's funny. That's a future idea. I mean, I'm going to take that opportunity to say, is there anything, you know, this is a full package. This is fantastic. This is doing the work. Is there any big upcoming improvements? Anything that you're excited that the kids will get more of soon or something like that? I'll start that one off with Scott.
I think maybe I think about this two ways. So one is on the student side, I think we're doing a lot of brainstorming on what's the next generation of features that are coming. There's ideas of like mood trackers, more content, and really we're putting this to teens and letting them say like, hey, what would you like to have in here that'd be most effective? let's look at it with a clinical eye, and Elsa could talk more about this. Like, we don't just want to do something that's gamifying the app or just like making it another YouTube ad. Like, it has to be rooted in what we know to be effective to help students with social and emotional issues that they're going through and challenges they're facing. So I think that's one. I think more to come. We're still finalizing it. But I think the other huge thing that we are expecting, Elsa could talk a little bit, is a research study that we're going to be conducting this next semester, which should get some more efficacy behind everything we're doing. So I don't know, Elsa, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I am really excited coming from academia and really wanting to make sure that we are developing something that is safe, that is effective, that we know is working and helping, and how it's working and helping students. We are partnering with Northwestern University and their Center for Behavioral Intervention Technologies, also known as CBITS, and some amazing researchers there, specifically Dr. Jessica Schleider, to conduct an external third-party evaluation of how the app is being used in schools and how it is supporting student well-being and mental health, but also things like attendance, grades, how is it impacting school climate and culture? Because one of the things we do here in some of these unexpected potential benefits that we're hearing from our school partners is that there's this kind of like tangible shift in school climate or the way that students are engaging that is kind of far beyond the reach of just that like 5-minute exercise. So getting to look into that a little bit further is really important. And again, just to emphasize, for us, we want to be the safe AI powered tool. And so having that third party evaluation is another way that we want to both demonstrate to ourselves and to others that, this can actually help, because it's new, it's weird, it's scary, it's out of the box in some ways.
Yeah, Will and Josh, you guys at the beginning said, in the education arena, you're either you love AI or you're like, I think you mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger coming to get you. Like, it's the devil, right? The Terminator. And, so what we know is that students are self-reporting alongside to have a huge impact on them. What we're hearing from our district partners and what we're seeing already kind of qualitatively and in the data is a big needle that's being moved in kind of the climate and the culture there. And so this research that we're doing, one of the real impacts that we see it having is that we get lots of interest from counselors, teachers, principals, even like student services directors. And they're like, we need this thing. Like, we have to have this. This is going to augment and complement our shortages and be a real difference maker. But you might have a school board member or a superintendent that maybe got freaked out by ChatGPT or something. And so having that efficacy is kind of like helps get over the finish line sometimes when there are some, and just being realistic that like we're in early days of how are we hiring AI to help solve a problem. And so in this case is how are we doing safe AI with clinician grade intervention content.
I hope you're able to. I hope you are marketing that like safe AI. Just warms my heart. I am more on that Schwarzenegger side of the AI spectrum. I use it often actually for work. I'm just not a fan of it. But safe AI is something that you would immediately have my attention with. And some of the biggest proponents of it are also still advocating for safe AI. So that language should reach the whole gamut of folks. I am thrilled. I'm thrilled to see this. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad that we could screen share. I'm glad we have this tool now for the Hitech Podcast to see it in action, because this is a game changer. This could be, I hope not as often a lifesaver, but I'm happy that it could be there to impact lives in such a way that it could save theirs. So Just so cool. Thank you both for taking the time with us, and we really appreciate you being on the podcast to give light to this tool and the problem that you're working to solve.
So thank you so much for having us. It's been great.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be wrapping up here in just a second. The Hitech Podcast always does a little debrief, but for now, we'll hold on until next time. Thank you both. Well, I think it's fair to say that Dr. Elsa Friis and Scott Freschet have been our Sherpas who have carried us to the top of the mountain of knowledge.
We only brought it up now. That's a little sad.
Yep. I wasn't trying to drop puns and stuff all over the place because it's you got Elsa and Friis.
We don't want to be nerdy.
And kiwi and llamas and there's tons of things.
I didn't say let it go once that entire episode. But now I did.
Well done. No, Dr. Friis, thank you for being such a great sport. We joked about that off air, so hopefully that's appropriate on air. Totally but anyways, such a great tool. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna soapbox for 1 second. Mental health is something that matters. Thank you. Mental health is something that matters, and unfortunately, it costs money. I think that those who I've experienced in my life around me who have needed mental health and have not had the opportunity to take it because of costs and things like that, it's a big bummer to me. I've been fortunate enough to be to have a consistent employer throughout my life that when I needed mental health assistance, I had employee assistance programs and I had the means to seek out mental health support. I'm an adult. I had a career at those times in my life when I needed those things. It was available. How much more important is it then for us to reach one of the most vulnerable populations, children, with a tool like Alongside? I think this is one of those things that just write the check, folks. Like, yes, I have to be honest and say, okay, everybody should check the tech and make sure it's secure and do your due diligence. That's fine. But if it's not Alongside, there are some competitors out there. I'm sorry, Alongside. The point is, I think they would agree with me on this. This issue matters, and reaching kids is like the easiest, lowest common denominator we should be doing. Not only should we be doing it, but then hearing what Alongside's capable of doing and seeing it in action, I'm all the more encouraged that they have built the tool that can do this. I'm confident in what Elsa was showing us, in what Scott was showing us, that it can do the job of supporting kids who wouldn't otherwise have support. I'm getting myself a little worked up about this. I'm sorry. I'll back down at this point, but I hope.
How dare
you
care about kids, Will? Gosh.
Darn you, Will.
What a monster. That's the thing.
Am I wrong? I really feel like this is something that this thing works. This is awesome. It's cool. It's fun. It's funny. And it's setting kids up for a lifetime of better skills and tools to be better for themselves, to be better to others. That I wish I could have had those skills sooner in my life. I had to make some mistakes. I had to get hurt. I had to hurt some people emotionally. Now, I did never traumatized or hurt someone physically, but I had to learn the lessons the hard way and then go seek professional help as an adult. And I just would love this to be available to children sooner through their educational process. I think it's so awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would agree. I mean, what am I going to say? You say, am I wrong? Yes, you're wrong. Shut up, Will. I don't think mental health is an issue, really. I think everybody's healthy. I mean, look at our world. It just screams healthy. If I'm looking around, it just screams, we're okay.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a thing.
How many wars are going on right now?
Yeah, well, none, really. We're really good at that. Anyway, that's a different story. That's high history. That'll be
the high history podcast.
That'll be that. That means something very different than anyway. I agree. I really like this app. I think what's interesting, I think part of the reason Will and I asked the questions we did, right, is I already hear several people I know, their voices in the back of my head when they hear AI and counseling and I hear the reactions of like, here we go, robot counselors, like that's not what they're trying to do. I wanted to highlight this. I want to highlight it again. The point is the spaces they're trying to fill are the spaces that aren't getting filled. And they're finding ways really through AI technology to bring human counselors techniques that otherwise couldn't be there. They're using their app to do that. And I think that's a really cool thing. I think that's a cool idea. We saw it in the app example that Scott shared, that it's really cool how the tool works and interacts. And it's not trying to replace humans' involvement in here, right? What it's trying to do is provide a resource for students to be able to engage and be heard, and in those moments where they may not have somebody to talk to, that they have something that they can go to that is supported by the institute or supported by the school, right? It's not that it's like just a tool that's there and the school gets to go to sleep and not deal with the students. Like, it's connected into their already existing support structures so that it can fill places they're not able to fill, and then escalate into and connect into the actual people who see them every week and care about them and want to be a part of their lives. It's a resource for that connection to be able to happen in a better place. So yeah, I would agree. I think this tool is really cool. I think you should check it out. I love the llama. We have expressed that multiple times. And if I could have a pet llama named Kiwi, I probably would. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know where I would put it. I live in a city home, so probably in my neighbor's yard. But like that's the
best place to put a llama, in your neighbor's yard.
Yeah, exactly. That's where llamas belong. Anyway, go check it out.
I'm just realizing that as you're saying that, we haven't once said how. Alongside .care is their website. Yes. So the full word, alongside .care. It is an app that goes on devices.
It's almost
in schools,
like we assumed they would go to our website, hitechpod.us, and they would find the link there because we share that stuff every week. It would be kind of foolish to listen to the Hitech Podcast and not go look at those things. I don't know.
Course.
It's kind of like listening to us and not watching the video.
Right? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you watch on YouTube?
Why wouldn't you want to see? Okay, never mind. I get it.
You're right, Josh.
My face is here. We get it.
Shut up. None of that. Another point that I forgot I wanted to mention about the tool, especially when it comes to AI, is that I personally, as a consumer, get frustrated when I go on my cell phone provider, for instance, and try and use the chat bot to get help and whatever. And it tries to act like a human. It responds humanly, and there's a little name on it and whatever. And I know I'm talking to a bot, but it's presuming it's human. It's trying to put a facade up there. Don't do that. World, don't do that. Alongside doesn't. And I really appreciate that. Alongside, Scott made the point. They want the kids to know and have that feeling that they're talking to the llama. They're not talking to a human. It's not trying to be that either. Yeah. When we were talking, folks, if you weren't watching, when we were talking about the fact that like the text bubbles were coming up like a text message, it was prompts. The whole thing came on screen, but then there was some time between responses. Yeah. It wasn't like you were sitting there watching someone type. It's not trying to make it suggest that there's an AI robot counselor. That is not what the tool is. I want to, just say it very loudly, very clearly. It's something to help students do self-reflection, to do internal processing. If they don't have self-regulation, it's a tool on the outside helping them do that on the inside. Yeah. That's what it is, and it's vetted, it's created, it's practiced, it's checked, it's managed by counselors, but it is not itself a tool trying to be a counselor, to take the stead of a counselor. It's a helpful tool that can be there for mental health when students need it, which is not usually when a counselor is available. I don't know. I've not met a counselor who's 24/7.
Yeah, I like the example they use of the worksheet thing. Like putting it in that package, really what they're doing is doing these types of worksheets or things they would have done anyway, but they're trying to make it a more creative, engaging experience that actually meets them where they are at that moment or they need it, right? Like, so again, they're not saying don't go to a counselor. They're not saying don't engage with a counselor. They're saying in the places that were kind of like let's be real. Let's put it this way. In the places in the whole process of care for students that kind of sucks. What is happening? I don't. Okay.
Just ignore me. Keep going.
Okay, it's fine. People were very excited about what I just said. The place that it kind of sucks. Okay, they're coming in and trying to make that better, and I think that's the way I view it coming out of the conversation with them. So, yeah. Anyway, go check it out. Alongside.care. I took it away from my screen.
You got it. That's it. Alongside.care.
Nailed it. Okay. I realized I'm like leading to a conversation that I don't know. Or go to hitechpod.us and you can find the website page where always, you can find out all the information and fun information about the app.
Thank you again, Scott. Thank you, Elsa. We greatly appreciate you spending the time with us. That's been episode 132, which is episode 2 in season 6 of the Hitech Podcast. Next week, we're going to have episode 133. We're going to be joined by, forgive me not knowing this ahead of time, Pritin Shah. I believe that's how I pronounce his name. We'll ask him next week and find out, and I will correct myself then. Who's an expert in AI. He's dealing with a lot of things in AI. We're very excited to talk to him. He's got a book. He's got some information that's been pulled together. He found us, and we're actually, there are a lot of folks out there trying to talk about AI everywhere, but this is one of those ones that are legitimate. We really appreciate the opportunity here to talk to Pritin. So that'll be next week in episode 133. As always, find us on Twitter, YouTube, etc. at Hitech Podcast. Some of them are at Hitech Pod, like Instagram and Reels or Threads or whatever those things are. If you'd like to be on the podcast,
you just said so many things involved in social media that several of them are not apps. Like find us on Reels.
No, it's
sorry. Continue.
Folks, I don't social, so.
I don't.
Ironically,
either,
I do the social for the podcast. I don't social.
Yeah.
Whatever. If you'd like to be on the podcast, if you'd like to follow up with alongside, if you'd like to provide us more information, if you want to challenge us on something, we haven't had a challenger. We'd love to talk to a challenger. You didn't like an episode? You didn't like something that we talked about? Bring it on. Let's go toe to toe. We'll just record it and put it on air. Inbox at hitechpod.us. Our website is hitechpod.us. Every single episode is paired with an episode page where Josh puts together some resources that you can use to get more information about the tools, the products, the ideas that we're talking about. Please do check that out and share it with everyone else. Always, always, always share, retweet, like, subscribe, those good things in the social spaces. That helps our voices reach more folks. If you think that we're doing a good job, share it, retweet, repost. We appreciate that. That'll get folks to hear us out there in the world. Thank you again for joining us for another week as we continue to learn what it looks like to harness technology, whether you are in the classroom or virtually online with a llama named Kiwi. Either way, we want to make sure all these technologies reach people where they are. So until next time, we'll see you.
See ya.